So now I want to move into the stuff that's deeper. I saw one interaction with you and some younger black kids.
Yeah.
And I want to bring this up because of the fact I think your message had a lot to do with the black community.
Yes.
And when I saw that, I was bothered in that moment because the state that I see a lot of our community in. And I saw that interaction with them and you almost like because you weren't down with the cause of causing violence and being destructive, it was almost like you're one of them type of thing, or you're the sellout because you're not being gangster and being hood or acting hard. You had more wisdom, more knowledge of how to handle these type of situations where they wanted to buck up to you. So what is your message in regards to that, in regards to the black community?
Thank you. I almost started crying because my grandma marched after King, and you'll hear me say that in the video. When she was 16 years old, and so I've always had a level of integrity in how I conduct myself because of that, more or less. The message that I have for our community is that we can't be critics and spectate and I want to say contraindications, but that is not the word. But we can't contradict ourselves. It takes more heart and courage to be a gangster. I respect that. But it takes even the more to be versatile. For an example, to be able to have some transferable skills and go into an office and articulate and communicate effectively and know what you're talking about, to where when you sit down and have conversations like the ones we're having, or, you know, even at a grocery store, you are able to expand outside of, oh, the weather sure does look nice, you know, outside, and, you know, oh, those are sure some nice shoes you have on. And in our community, and I'm going to just keep it real,
Please do.
It's always about the Jordans, the chick with the small waist, the big booty, and the light skin, or the dark skin, or the, you know, the white girl, or the dollar. You know, it's like a lot of our black men are used as trophy brothers, to sort of speak, for in a lot of biracial relationships, versus them acknowledging or being made out to be babies, right? Because they're spoiled rotten, or they're that thug or gangbanger because their mom was on drugs and they didn't have the understanding of what the disease of addiction is like, nor did anybody take the time to explain it to them, and they had to go out there and make ends meet so therefore their kids can eat, because the system is broken, and it is pro-white and not for blacks. But how can we go about changing that? Because we can't change it being inside Oregon State Penitentiary talking about a shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? We have to be able to make that systemic change by actually getting educations like college degrees and studying and going to law school and telling the homies, hey, bro, no, I can't kick it today. No, I'm not finna go out and get loaded. No, actually, I'm gonna go home and go to bed. And yeah, it's okay for me to go home to my one wife and be okay with that, because there's a level of humility that you accept, that you take on. Like, no, I'm not no snitch. And it's oftentimes where they'll be like, oh, that, you know, like even out there, like it was like I'm a snitch, or during the riot, like I had somebody threaten to beat me up and all that because I wasn't on their side. And it's like, I'm me. I'm not from a gang, never have been from a gang, and won't gang bang. I do know people that have chosen that route. Also, I know people that have chosen the complete opposite. You know, and so I can't sit here and say that my life was complete tormented hell growing up. There were some painful things and struggles that I have been through, but also I've risen above that and a survivor of a lot, you know. And so our black brothers and sisters can help this as dynamic. In the middle of this pandemic, we can still rise. In fact, if not ever, this is now the time to be that example and act as though how we want to be treated. That means that instead of you sitting up there, like you've seen a couple of them were resistant to me, and it was like, oh, okay, like one brother was like, oh yeah, you know, well, man, you choosing their side. And I'm like, okay, well, are you gonna come and take my son to school when there's people picking on him and he's getting bullied? Are you gonna teach him how to be a black man when everybody else around is confused and don't know how to be? Because at what point can I say this is an example of what a black man in America is supposed to be like, and this is what a black man is now and don't want to be like, when all he has is the don't want to be likes instead of the want to be likes, because you don't want to take the time out and say, oh, well, that ain't my, all he said was, well, that ain't my son, my kids is good. And that's that narrow-minded, simplistic lifestyle and mentality that a lot of us have. And I say us because I don't like pointing the finger, but like, as long as your kids are okay, then never mind what Raeona is going through with hers, right? Because yours is fine. Oh, as long as the woman that you're dating right now, daughter, feels special because you're with her mom, it's okay. But never mind the fact that you got 5 other kids to be taken care of that you choose not to take care of or even acknowledge exist. My son just had a birthday June 3rd, and his father didn't even call him and wish him happy birthday. So that is why I wanted to make sure I had that one-on-one conversation with the smaller groups, because it was like, this is me. So what can you say to me right now? Because what you're doing is you're out here protesting, saying that you support the movement, but you don't have any morals and values and integrity or even standards to even have a movement on. So you're just moving with the way the wind blows. But if you move strategic and you have some substance and some merit, then you might actually you can make an impact. You can actually throw a punch and it's going to impact. You're not just going to throw a blow and miss or throw your shoulder out, So that's more like, and I got turned up just.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
You're good.
I felt that in my core, like it hurts. It hurts so much because it's like, and not just our black men, because oftentimes we put a lot of weight on the black man. But like, what about our black women that are trying to learn what it's like to be a young lady, but all you have is a mother who's been a prostitute and a crackhead at the age of 14. But her mom, let's not devalue that, right? Because I'm talking about my mom, and she did the best she could with what she had to work with. My grandmother did the best she could with what she had to work with, and they played key roles in my life. As to why I have one tattoo. I got it at 31 years old, and it's a black rose, and that signifies the black women in my family, because those thorns on the outside, they prick you and they hurt when you first pick up that rose, but when you actually can get past that and you smell it, it's the most beautiful scent ever. Outside of when they try to imitate it in a perfume bottle. And I like how that just flowed right there, because when you take the scent of a rose and you put it in perfume, it stinks. But when you actually pick up a fresh rose, and you smell it, it's the beautiful smell you'll ever smell. And when you look at the fact that you compare that to our black women, and you look at how, when you have the white girls that are trying to be black, and then you have the black girls that are trying to be white and not accepting themselves as in who they are, it stinks. This one's hating on that one, that one's hating on that one, and it has absolutely nothing to do with color. It has everything to do with their own insecurities and self-doubt or worth, right? And having that confidence. And I'm all about biracial relationships. I think it's dope. My uncle, he has married a white wife, and I felt, this Caucasian boy got at me today. I went to take my dad somewhere, and he called himself trying to talk to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, you are such a square and so handsome. And I was like, oh my goodness. He tried talking to me, because oftentimes, me being a boisterous black woman, you wouldn't walk up and be like, oh, hey, how you doing? Can I get your number? You might be like, yeah, the Seahawks are playing tonight. Yeah, let's go. And then I'm like, well, nobody ever wants to talk to me, So all that to say, like, the diversity, I wanted them to know that if they're going to come out here and walk, know what you're walking for. And that was that moment my grandmother had with her father before she marched after King in Montgomery, Alabama. He said, well, Becky, do you know why it is that you're marching after Dr. King? And my grandma said yes, and she went from pump and play from A to Z. And he said, and that's exactly correct. And if you believe that in your heart of hearts, then you march. And my grandmother, she marched until she had holes in her shoes, and she would tell me stories about, she would wet toilet paper and put them at the bottom of her shoe during that march, just to keep the cement from burning her feet, because there were holes at the bottom of her sneakers. And she was pregnant with my uncle. And that's what I wanted them to know. If you're going to be out here for a reason and have some integrity and standards for yourself. Don't be out here with the next scheming move to wait for a store to get busted open so you can go snatch some handbags and sell them, but because you are actually out here standing for something, which means that when the police ask you to leave, you'll just leave. You won't be, insubordinate and defiant and completely rebellious, So, yeah, it was a lot to that.
Yeah. There's a lot to that, and it sounds like I'm hearing you say that it's really about the conduct of a character,
Yes.
personality, and with that, do you feel we're in 2020? Do you feel like me as a black man or you as a black woman cannot make it? Do you feel that you're oppressed?
No, in fact, not at all. I feel that because my thing is, I used to say, when the pandemic hit, I was like, what, a recession? Like, we've been in that. But no, I actually just was able to finance a car. And I actually have seen a lot of black businesses start up, and I'm starting my own. And I've never been that type of poor me type of a chick, right? And now I think what has happened is there's been this stigma of black people are oppressed and they're going through it and they don't have anything and they won't ever be anything. And then you have the generations that begin to believe that, and now they're living in that. Well, it's like the law of attraction. What you say in the Bible, right? Like what you say, what you think and what you say will manifest itself into an action. And there are only certain signs that show that certain situations exist, which mean that my brother told me that all the time. Like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, certain signs show that certain situations exist, meaning that this right here, this outcome of this, or this, the symptoms of this shows that you have this disease or this bacteria or this issue, right? This sickness. So you going out there and selling drugs and getting caught up and going to jail. Now, yes, guess what? Now you're a felon. Now you got to fight that much harder to become somebody and to get a job. Now you have this child that you don't see because you're out here ripping and running, doing nothing. Spin around Boulevard and turn around Avenue. And at the end of the day, you're trying to figure out, well, how did I get here? Well, now you are no different than Zeus, who's chasing his tail in my living room because you're just doing the same thing and expecting different results. That's insanity. And then now you have the system that we look at Jim Crow, for example, to go with that too. You have a child in class acting out. The first thing that child wants to do is get out of class. And what do? We grant this child that right to leave class by saying, get out of my class and go sit in the detention hall. Now, we're in the middle of reading. This child is still sitting in the detention hall. So now that comprehensive reading that they're supposed to be getting, they're not getting. So now when it's time to go on to the next class and they can't understand the book because they set out the last class because of their behaviors. So it's accommodating the BS, the garbage, the nonsense. You know what I mean? And so that's what the oppression is like. I don't think we're oppressed by far. I think there are some technical difficulties as far as the structure of the system that we have that is not designed for us to be as successful as the next white person. That part is true. And when I say that, I mean as far as, you've heard the white privilege and, blacks aren't fortunate to have this and that. Like, for example, I went to, what's a good one? My insurance claim. When I had to total out my vehicle, they wanted to do a full-on investigation to think that I wasn't, to make sure that I wasn't doing any type of insurance fraud. When in all actuality, if it was somebody else that called in, they would have just processed it, no problem. Or when you get to the front and when you go in the store shopping, and Walgreens got bad, maybe I shouldn't name drop. But when you go into some convenient places and you go shopping and they follow you throughout the entire mall or the entire store thinking you're going to take something like, I don't have the money to pay for it. And then now you have this black person who wants to act out like you don't have the money to pay for it because now you're getting mad that you feel like you got to prove that you got to pay for it. Like you don't have to believe that. You don't have to have the Louis bag to say you're balling when you can have that in your account and actually show that when you go up and you purchase your groceries with cash and not food stamps. And don't knock it because I do get 10. You know what I'm saying? Like there's people that do get food stamps and there's nothing wrong with that. But using that to your advantage, taking a step up. So that right there, I just wanted to answer that from my perspective and what I believe in. But more or less, those that do feel like they are at that point where I am oppressed and the government is making me oppressed. Trump is making me oppressed because of this. And it's like, okay, well, how can you counteract that? Because I'm about the solution. The problem gets me nowhere. You know what I mean? I know what the problem is, but how can we get to the solution? What is the solution? Well, if I don't want to be over here, living on subsidized housing and acting ignorant, then I'm going to go to school and get a good education and use that stepping stool for public housing, accept the public housing that they give me because it's a blessing. and I'm going to take time out while my rent is less than everyone else's and not go buy the latest pair of Jordans, but I'm going to take that time out to put that money in a CD or a trust fund for my kids and for myself so I can establish a savings account. Because I was on I had Section 8 right before I got married at one point, and I had this is my first time ever saving up. I had $7,000 saved. It's called, I forgot the program, but it's a work program where everything that I was paying a month for my rent, like $300 a month I would pay, they would match that entirely 50-50. And at the end of that 5 years, I get all of that money to myself, tax-free, and do what I please. And that money was to put up for a house or to save, for hard times like this, to have somebody to pull out. So, those are the things, like using and taking advantage of what is out there.